This morning, we're going to talk about God's self-disclosure. When Jesus taught his disciples and us how to pray, he almost at the very beginning said that we should pray, "Hallowed be your name." Now, why should we hallow the name of God? Well, first, what does it mean to hallow? To hallow means to deeply respect or revere. It also means, quite simply, it means to worship the name of God. So we know what it means to hallow, but why are we hallowing the name of God? That's because in biblical times, to know someone's name was to know them. Your character, your actions, even your destiny was wrapped up in your name. This is why it is such a watershed moment in the Old Testament when God reveals his name to Moses. You might remember the scene well. Moses is being prepared by God to go to Pharaoh in Egypt and ask him, really command him, to let God's people go. And he needs to pitch this plan to Israel. And Moses is kind of working out the implications. And he says, well, when Israel says, "Who's sending me?" who do I tell him? What's your name, God? And God says this. Exodus 3:14 reads, God said to Moses, "I am who I am. This is what you are to say to the Israelites. I am has sent me to you." He goes on. God also said to Moses, "Say to the Israelites, the Lord, the God of your fathers, the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob, has sent me to you. This is my name forever, the name you shall call me from generation to generation." God is not just telling them how to address him. God is sharing something deep and intimate about his very nature and character when he tells Israel that his name is "I am who I am." You might also know the Hebrew word for that, Yahweh. Now, "I am who I am" is a fine translation, but it misses part of what I think, and many commentators think, God was trying to communicate. I'll rely heavily on the book The Problem of God by a man named John Courtney Murray. And he says that there's some dimensions to this "I am who I am" that translation misses. Well, what are some of those dimensions? The first is that you could add this translation to thicken up your understanding of that term. "I shall be there with you in power." God is communicating something deep about his presence, that he will be right there with you as a force and a source of power. The same power that created the heavens and earth just through speaking it out is the same God that will be there with them in power. A second translation you could add to the mix is, "I shall be there actively with you." I won't be just some amorphous presence, says God. He says, I will be there laboring alongside you and, maybe more importantly, on your behalf, independent of you. And lastly, you can add this third translation, "I shall be with you time and again in many visitations." This presence is not one that will just come around and leave, but it will be a persistent presence that will be there with you. So, God has a powerful, persistent presence with those he loves and who love him. That is why it is such a big deal that God chose this way of self-disclosure, telling us his name. And to know the name of God is not just to know something about him, it's to know him.